Here. Good day, doctors.
Go!
You're watching Dr. Politics.
Welcome, everyone. It is Friday, June 2nd. We're halfway through 2023. 6 more months before campaign season kicks off. Been a busy week. So, Jeff, did you find any documents? We shared the video of you searching for Hunter Biden's and Joe Biden's China files in the caves of Michigan, or what looked like caves. You know, yeah. And it's been a busy week. A lot of stuff going on. You know, Ron DeSantis last week, he did his announcement. He had rallies all this week. You know, Governor DeSantis will be giving President Trump, a run for his money. I get that impression of.
Well, it seems to be a race just between the two of them, right?
Yeah. And, you know, by the way, here's something interesting. I saw a poll. Mike Pence's favorability is like 47% or something like that. Which is, I mean, hey, maybe Mike Pence, I know he's not going to get, he's going to get there'll be people who read X-Men comics won't vote for him because he looks just like Senator Kelly, who was about wanting to round up all the mutants. And he was a Democrat in the comic books. You know. But,
I love Pence, but I mean, I don't know if he's going to be able to poll, say above 5% at any point. But
and then you have, then you got the governor of one of the Dakotas. I think it's South Dakota or North Dakota.
No, it's North Dakota.
Yeah, it's the one Kristi Noem's not from.
Yeah.
And he's going to be announcing as well. I'm thinking who else gets in. Oh, by the way, next Friday night, Chris Christie will be at our state party convention. Next Friday.
Are we not over Chris Christie yet? I mean,
Okay. As I was talking to a few people today, but this is kind of like, remember in 2008, Rudy Giuliani planted his flag in Florida. Fred Thompson planted his flag in South Carolina. You know, they kind of skipped Iowa and New Hampshire. And they put all their chips in one area. And we kind of saw what happened as that, we've got our, President Biden is speaking right now.
Yes, he's telling the nation how we averted a crisis on the debt ceiling.
When he fell down yesterday? Is that what it is, from when he fell down?
No.
When he fell down, we averted a crisis, because if I had fallen, I couldn't get back up. And Susan, our eager fan, she was anticipating and waiting for us. Susan, we need to have you in the green room at some point with us. I think you'll enjoy it. But Joey B is talking about averting a crisis. But did you notice there were a lot, AOC and a bunch of Democrats did not vote for this? They were like, they thought there wasn't enough giveaways. And I think their biggest rub was the workfare provision, which, by the way, we're just bringing back what Democrat Bill Clinton and signed into law, workfare, when he was president. The era of big government was over.
Well, I mean, look, on the work requirements, there were already work requirements in there. I mean, everything was kind of suspended because of the pandemic. They just increased the age, and it's only for those that have no dependents, right?
Mm-hmm.
and there's some carve outs for like homeless and veterans and things like that.
Mhm.
So the effect of this is actually pretty minimal in the long run for this. But I mean, it does go back to what the Republicans really got Clinton to do back over 30 years ago. So
Yeah. And these folks, these people, they just, are, I think they're just very, the Democrat Party is very touch. And this has been making the rounds today. And this is what we've seen in 90 years of Democrat policy. You see, on one side we have 1933, FDR's America, and then we have 2023, Joe Biden. Not much has changed. You got those Bidenvilles popping up everywhere in 10 cities. They got the Hoovervilles on the other side during FDR. What is the matter with America these days? These guys, they're finally getting their dream of a third world country, America, frankly. Very true, but that is my wainscoting, and no, I'm not going to paint it yellow. I will not be painting it yellow.
I never thought I'd have this flag up for as long as I've had it up.
Yeah, I mean, they're about to. Major offensive is coming. The Ukrainians are about to strike in the heart of Mother Russia, as they would say.
Yeah, I mean, Russia's made some progress on some fronts, but on other fronts, I mean, you got the head of the Wagner Group who's criticized Putin and the Russians for the way they've handled this thing. So it's not good for them at
No,
all.
it's not good for the president of the Wagner Group either.
Yeah, you better watch out.
What was that? What was that? Plutonium number 9 is what they poisoned that other guy that said something bad about Vladimir Putin.
Yeah, you got to watch out. You got to watch out for that stuff. Not good.
I think. So, Jeff, how's your audio coming along? Any better? Okay, you continue with that. This is kind of like, remember the early days of television when
Chuck can listen and nod his head, during
exactly. Yep.
saying we're doing good.
Yeah. But remember the early days of television? We hardly ever see that with technical difficulties. They'd have a guy working in they'd have like a little animated thing where they'd throw up on the screen where somebody's like ripped open a camera and working on it. And where they would, but I think television technology has come a long ways. We hardly ever see any of that stuff anymore. None of that at all. And we have a lot of pros around. So yeah, we'll get this situated. I remember once when I was a kid. Do you remember when the original Tom Sawyer they used to air that on television before? I bet it's canceled now. The original Tom Sawyer, the black and white one, right? It was in the middle of that. NBC had some technical glitch. Also, kind of like the NBC also had another technical glitch when the Jets were playing. There was a playoff game where they cut the game to go straight to their Heidi movie.
Yeah, that'll live forever in TV history.
I mean, really, what was NBC thinking? Jets or Heidi? There's only so many people that want to watch the Swiss Miss story.
Yeah, television was different then, and so was football. But that was definitely an error in judgment on their part.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm assuming Biden's speech is basically covering, trying to give the left some solace that we actually got a good deal, and I'm a great deal maker, and Republicans got they didn't really get anything they wanted, but despite you mentioned AOC complaining. I mean, there's a lot of the lefties are complaining, but
Mhm.
there's plenty of Republicans, some of the hardcore, the Freedom Caucus ones that were complaining as well. But in politics, what were they really expecting? We've got a divided government. The Kevin McCarthy, I think, did a good job of shepherding this thing through and holding pretty firm with the president who didn't want, to negotiate. He wanted a debt ceiling bill without any
Wait a
restriction.
minute. I think we got some news here. Susan actually must have seen that Heidi movie.
I don't think I've seen that movie since I was a kid.
That was probably you probably were there in real time when they cut the jets off for the Heidi movie.
I'm trying to think. I mean, I was definitely around. What was I doing? I
What was it? Wasn't it?
think it was like, wasn't that 1968? I wasn't really even watching football then, I don't think. Can
Was
you
it
even
68 or? I seem to
can you
remember
even stream
72.
Heidi anywhere? I mean, it's nobody really watches DVDs anymore. Everybody looks for stuff streaming wise.
Yeah, and I'm willing to bet there it is streaming somewhere out there. They probably do have it streaming out in the ethers somewhere out there. I mean, there's a lot of stuff you can find on there, which is funny. Lot of programming out there. YouTube is just a treasure trove of old, forgotten TV shows as well as cartoons from yesteryear. And
As you demonstrated with Hashimoto a few weeks
yes,
ago.
yeah, she was into live theater.
Yeah, YouTube has become really dangerous for my wife because she got into watching Jordan Peterson, who actually is quite good, in his
Hmm.
interviews. But she also, I don't even know how she got into this, but she was watching lots of different little things around the world.
Hmm.
And then she's caught on to this little girl and her family in Iran and just kind of daily activities of farming and whatever, living.
Hmm.
And as a result of this, it just feeds her other similar videos, right? And so it's like that she watches that much time. Yes, my thanks to my wife, I started listening to Jordan Peterson's podcast, and I will admit I'm hooked on this guy. He's
Yeah.
you know,
And you know what else is on? You know what else is on YouTube? Coast to Coast AM. They put the radio broadcasts on YouTube every day. So why pay for a subscription? You just watch it on YouTube.
well, there. Yeah, I mean, there are things you can get, and it's I don't know. I mean, I wind up paying for a bunch of different streaming
Hmm.
services, and it's like, well, it pretty much covers what I was getting on cable, but gives me things I'm more interested in. And Art Bell, yes, classic
Didn't your
guy.
dad do like an interview with him?
My dad was on that show more than once.
Did he ever go on to talk about Vince Foster and the Clinton body counts or anything like that?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we have to go into deep into the archives to figure out what they talked about. Because did Vince Foster spot a UFO? I don't know.
Actually, there was a AIM guy. He was part of the Speakers Bureau who used to talk about flying saucers. I'm trying to think what his name was. He was friends with Alan Brownfeld. Remember Alan?
Oh yeah, Alan's pretty active on Facebook with his family pictures. It's pretty interesting, funny.
But also, I've heard rumors they have every single Johnny Quest and Marine Boy cartoon on YouTube too.
Hey, you think about Johnny Quest for the
Mhm.
time. That was a pretty diverse cartoon, right?
I know they had they you know what's funny? You know it's funny Punjab because HBO did that. Well, no, Cartoon Network did that reboot Johnny Quest. I guess when they were teenagers or whatever, and they turned Punjab into a prince. I'm like, huh. And my friend Steve goes, he goes, how do you think he was going to be hanging out with an assassin and his elite scientist on private jets all over the place? And he wasn't a prince, you know. The street urchin was just a cover.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of mentioning you today to some. I was with some people, and we were having to go pick up some cars up in Frederick, and I was mentioning you because you have your love of the Jeffersons and some of those old timey shows, and
Hmm.
said, these are shows that can't be, you can't make anymore. You can't make the
Yeah.
Sanford and Sons, the All in the Families, the Jeffersons. You can't do it anymore.
I don't think you could even do shows like, I mean, like Who's the Boss and Growing Pains, and to probably a lesser degree, you probably couldn't do Soap. Remember Soap? Richard Mulligan's first series,
That was a funny show.
and Catherine was it Catherine Hammond? What was that woman's name?
Hellman.
Hellman. There you go. Yeah, she was the long. She is one of the few actresses in Hollywood. Evidently, they're saying she had a continuous career from. She was on Soap. After Soap, she went to Who's the Boss. After Who's the Boss, she went to Coach, and after Coach, she went to Everybody Loves Raymond.
Maybe that's what it is. Maybe Naheed reminds me of Catherine Hellman. I don't know.
Yes, you're out.
Can you see that?
Yes, I see it. Yes,
Yeah, I mean, look, admittedly, back in those days, the shows were they were pretty white and pretty male, right?
but
Or
Richard Mulligan got abducted
I mean,
by.
what about Chico and the Man? Can you make a
Yeah,
Chico and the Man?
probably can't. You probably can't make Sanford and Son anymore either.
Yeah.
You know.
Don't tell her that, please.
She'd probably take it as a compliment.
I hope she would.
You know what was funny? She also did a few guest shots on Benson.
Yeah, Benson. Could you ever make Benson?
No. And Benson was ahead of its time. You couldn't do Benson today. What a novel concept. There was an episode which I thought which solidified the fact that the governor was a Republican, as was Benson, because they had surplus money left over from the federal government, right? Or whatever, and they had to spend it. And people were they go, we could do a bullet train for 3 blocks, just spend the money. And then Benson, because he kind of evolved. This is back when he was the budget director. He decided, he goes, we're going to save the money and put it in a rainy day fund. What a novel concept. Do you think they could do Barney Miller today?
That was the one I was going to bring up. I was thinking exactly about Barney Miller. I mean, there are
we see his wife
stereotypes in Barney Miller.
We see his wife in season 1, and then the final last season. I think,
that was that was a great show. I mean, Hal Linden was marvelous. Abe Vigoda, those guys. You had your black cop, you had your Asian cop.
Mm-hmm. And you also had Julio was on there from Sanford and Son. He was a cop for the earlier seasons, and then he was replaced by. You know who else was on there? Linda Lavin was in the early seasons too. She was a cop on there too.
Welcome Back, Kotter.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Jack So. They did I have not seen it, but I need to find it on YouTube. But there was a live Barney Miller show they did. It was like an impromptu show after Jack So died of lung cancer or something like that, and they just did the show, and told stories about Jack and the fact that he was Japanese. He was in an internment camp, and Hal Linden was mentioning that how he never complained about the fact that he grew up. He was he was interned, and which is a testament to today. It's not they basically they kind of moved on. They kind of dealt with it in their ways, and they moved on. And he had a very successful career.
About designing women.
That's I wonder, could they do Designing Women today?
Well, not the way they had the black character in there.
Wasn't he like their secretary or something like that?
Something or other, and it was it's just
But then he became a lawyer, though. I think he progressed and became a lawyer on the show too at the end. I mean, I don't think they could do Newhart anymore.
Yeah, I mean, you can't. I mean, you have to have diversity, and somebody probably in there's now got to be gay or transgender or something to qualify, and it's a complete mess.
They couldn't do Perfect Strangers anymore, if you recall, and that was like a '90s show. I don't even think they could do Full House today, frankly. They'd have to make little Michelle transgender or something like that. And they'd have to have, you
Yeah,
know,
I mean, they did a reboot of didn't they have like
yeah,
on like Fuller House or
yeah,
something like that?
yeah. And I heard it was really good. It got really good reviews. You had the haters, that
I mean,
hated,
they did a one day at a time thing, but they changed everybody to Latinos.
and they were all in LA instead of Indianapolis.
Yeah,
They had that on TV Land. They used to run it on TV Land every now and then, and I was not a fan. You know. Oh,
yeah,
really? Okay, I have to
yeah.
find those
Yeah. One
next
day at a
season.
time. My crush on Valerie Bertinelli back in the
Yeah,
day.
and she's still fairly attractive at what is she now, 50, 70 years old? She's probably in her 60s, I bet.
I think she's probably close to my age. Yeah,
Yeah,
she.
and I mean, I don't even think they could. I mean, even the Waltons, I don't think they could redo. You know, although they have to make. There's actually a funny Capital Steps does this thing about modern television. They do one on the wall and they go, but John Boy has to be. This is back in the Clinton era, so they're saying John Boy has to be gay and a conscientious objector. You know, and here's something else. Talking about television shows they can't do again. Golden Girls. I don't think you could do that. And B. Arthur was a rabid liberal.
Matlock.
They're rebooting Matlock. Did you see that? But Matlock doesn't work without Andy Griffiths, frankly, because it's just Sheriff. We all know it's just Sheriff Taylor.
Yeah, I know.
Because Miss Crump became the teacher also. Miss Crump became a teacher, and we've got no video, Jeff. By the way, just letting you know, we got.
I wonder if he left to try to fix the problem.
Yeah, no, he's back in. I've let him back in, but I don't have any. There's no video coming.
I guess there is.
Oh, you only have one bar for your stream signal, by the way. Just letting you know, Jeff, if you can hear us.
There is kind of looks like there's a space for him here, I guess, huh?
Yeah, he's here in spirit. But there's imagine. Do you think they could do Dynasty? Well, actually, they probably could do Dynasty because wasn't the one of the character? Was that like the one that had the first gay character?
Yeah, I mean, I think when I look at some of those old shows, I would say like Cagney and Lacey was probably kind of almost a precursor to a lot of social justice kind of a thing like that because they got very political during that show.
Was that the one where they had an abortion show where Cagney or Lacey, one of them was pro-life and one was pro-choice?
Yeah,
and it was ruined their partnership or something.
They also did one on apartheid and so stuff really was.
I mean, they did Seventh Heaven. Seventh Heaven was another show that they probably could, Actually, they probably could do that today,
well,
but they'd have to.
How about eight is enough? I mean, no one would ever have a family that big, and that family would have to be extremely diverse in today's world.
Yes, and yeah,
they'd have to have blacks, Asians, and the trans kids and everything else.
I did not know they actually had the mother in season 1. The actress died in real life, and instead of recasting her, they just wrote that into the script that she died.
Yeah, I think I remember that. Yeah,
and because I always thought I don't think I may have watched it the first season. I always thought it was that woman Abby was the second wife, and they just talk about the mother dying, and. It's funny, I've got an aunt in Pennsylvania that looked like that character, Abby, on the show. It's funny. But there's a lot of stuff, a lot of things they can't do today. I mean, by the way, the pizza and politics was excellent, Craig. It was great. We missed you. And then we had also this week, we had the budget deal. You had a lot of members that did not. I think there was about 70 some Republicans that didn't vote for this.
71, yeah, but I mean, I didn't think that was that big a deal because
Yeah,
it was pretty clear to me that the Democrats would provide enough votes to pass it in the House.
yeah. And here's the thing:
Eventually.
when you only have one third of the three branches of government under your control, I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to shut the government down. You're going to, this is the best outcome they could have possibly have gotten. I think.
No,
Although,
I mean, look. I mean, in the when you if you drill down a little bit and look at things,
mhm,
it's like, is it earth shattering? Does it is it slows the rate of spending, but it doesn't
yeah,
really stop spending. I
no,
mean, in 10 years, you know, we're going to be at 115% of GDP or something.
hmm
We're still heading towards this thing where the debt continues to grow and grow and grow. Uh,
hmm
this 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 whole bill slows it down a little bit, but it definitely kind of taps the brakes at the very least of Biden and his spending priorities. So
hmm
that in and of itself, you know, politicians being what they are, they're not really going to be that serious about doing
yeah,
anything to attack the the debt and actually bring that down. It's going to continue to grow. I mean,
hmm
while you and I are alive, it will continue to grow. No
hmm
one will ever get serious enough to actually try to
yeah,
find a way to solve this. But I mean, I think that's we're just going to get a little wobblier as we go
yeah.
along. We let this thing continue on like it is. But I mean, there's a lot of people. The hardline conservatives are mad at McCarthy, but put they ought to be in his shoes of trying to navigate this thing. I
Yeah,
give
let's say Matt Gaetz was speaker or Lorraine Boebert was speaker. What would they have done differently? Here's the thing: leadership means you make some enemies. Leadership means, you know, you're going to get it from both sides, and if you're getting it from both sides, you're doing your job right.
yeah.
Frankly,
I mean, look. I mean,
I mean, we loved Paul Ryan, and they demonized him once he became speaker. Boehner was he was John McCain light, frankly, and what a disappointment he was. But I mean, Paul Ryan was a good stand-up guy. Paul Ryan wanted to fix Social Security. Paul Ryan wanted to solve Medicare and the problems, make Social Security solvent, frankly. And I don't.
I don't think Paul Ryan, his ambition really was to become speaker. They just wound up in a position where he was their best option. They convinced him to
Yep.
take that. He was definitely to me more effective when he wasn't the speaker because
Yep.
he could speak and talk about the policies that he really felt
Yep.
passionate about. When
Mm-hmm.
you're the speaker, you now have to deal with all the other members of your caucus and get them in line on these votes. And
Mm-hmm.
you got to have to know how to count votes and do that stuff. Not everybody has that skill. Not everybody really wants to do that. It was a tough road to hoe for Paul Ryan. So it was a dramatic shift in what he had to do for his role.
Mm-hmm.
McCarthy. I think McCarthy's one of those guys that's cut out for this job.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be people like Dan Bishop and Chip Roy and Bo. There's
Yep.
going to be people who are going to complain about him,
Mm-hmm.
but in the end, when you have Schumer initially saying after they had passed the House passed their first bill and sent it to the Senate, and they were Senate was like, no, we're not going to talk about this, and Biden's like, no negotiation, and yet they wind up conceding to some points on this.
Mm-hmm.
They made progress. I mean, he held together when it came time for the bigger vote. Yeah, so they lost some Republicans, but the Democrats, what they didn't want in the House or the Senate was to be on record of voting against this and having to potentially shut down the government because they have painted forever, really, that the Republicans are the shutdown people. They're the ones
Yep.
that are taking away the food off your table. And all the pressure to me was always on the Democrats. They had to give in. I think McCarthy put them in a position where the
Mm-hmm.
Democrats they had to do something because they didn't want to wind up having the government not being able to pay their bills and obligations. You know, Janet Yellen's warnings and
But
stuff.
hey, Janet Yellen, let me tell you, she was a Trump appointee. Let's not. And she, okay, we know this debt ceiling was an arbitrarily deadline because all of a sudden, when it didn't look like we were going to have a deal by June 1st, oh, we can go until June 5. And I'm willing to bet if we didn't have a deal by June 5, she was, oh, we can wait till July 1st, you know.
Yeah, I think that date was probably a moving target in a lot of ways. So
Hmm.
yeah, it's there's a lot of posturing that goes on in here, but I can only imagine Biden, putting the best face on this, and
Yeah, and I'll
you
tell
know,
you, Janet Yellen is probably the worst Fed chair we've had in a very long time. Who was the guy before Volcker? Volcker came in and cleaned up his mess. So we need a Volcker or an Alan Greenspan or Ben Bernanke, frankly, to be the next chair of the Federal Reserve, frankly.
yeah,
And Joe Biden reappointed her to her job too. It's not.
well, she's the Treasury Secretary now.
Who's that? Janet Yellen. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
but yeah.
Powell.
I mean, what I'm saying is, she was reserved. She was in the Federal Reserve by Trump.
Yeah,
Then Biden appointed her to the what do you call it, to the Treasury Secretary, and she's an idiot. She is. I mean, honestly, she is one of those people. She is a moron. She's an incompetent buffoon who doesn't belong in being the Secretary of Treasury. I mean, is that really the best the Democrats have? It's pretty sad. That's the best they could come up with. I mean, hell, Robert Reich would have been better than her, and Robert Reich was horrible. You know.
yeah. Here we are with a kind of a kind of a squishy, soft economy at this point in time, and they the, the Biden administration really doesn't know what to do about all of this.
Hmm. And I think the Biden administration, they're in over their heads. Frankly, they have no idea what they're doing. And hopefully we're in the last throes of the Biden administration, and we'll have a new regime, new president next year in 2020 coming elected, and then a new one in 2025. But I tell you, it's going to be a long 2 years to get to January 2025.
Yeah, I mean, I really am having a hard time imagining that, a full on normal, campaign, one where Biden actually has to be in the public eye, and he's going to have to be at campaign rallies to muster up the vote and everything like this.
Maybe he's going to do a rose garden strategy for his campaign. He's not going to leave the rose garden and just campaign and look presidential.
Well, I mean, I think there is some things hoping the Democrats are probably hoping that, that'll the opponent will be Trump and they'll have a rematch because they probably figured they have a shot against him.
And I hate to say it, I think they can probably beat Trump again, so to speak.
Yeah, I don't think as many people will wind up voting this time around as did in, the last time either. And
Because we learned in 2022 that American parents hate Donald Trump more than they love their children. That is what it came down to. And yeah, we had some weak candidates too, but still, at the end of the day, I mean, how is it that I mean, is that what every Democrat just cares about? Is baby killing and transgender and whatever you want to call it, the flavor of the week?
I would like to see I don't know if it's quite a kinder, gentler Donald Trump, but still some of the edge, but someone who doesn't mouth off at everything every time. I
That's
think
not
I
gonna
think
happen.
we've talked about this a gazillion times, but he just opens his mouth way too many times. He can't control himself, and
Hmm.
if he stayed silent or just wouldn't respond to certain things, he'd be in much better shape, on a head-to-head base against Biden. You know, it, and maybe he'd be. I mean, the early polls have got him pretty far ahead of DeSantis, but as the campaign goes on, maybe that gap narrows. But
Hmm.
you know, there will be a big contrast between DeSantis and Trump, and Trump's doing everything he can to derail DeSantis, which is pretty funny. I mean, every time I see those commercials that they run about DeSantis and the flat sales tax, I'm like, okay, but there's no context to this. You're all talking about the sales tax, but you're not explaining what this is as to why it is. It's not that Ron DeSantis wants to tax everybody at this higher rate. He's just saying that, this he thinks a flat tax is better than our current income tax system.
Mm-hmm.
So that it's one thing replacing another thing.
Yeah.
It's not additional to.
Well, I mean, if you listen to a lot of President Trump's talk recently, he's against raising the retirement age. He's against reforming our tax system. He sounds more like an FDR Democrat than a Ronald Reagan Republican, frankly.
Well, heaven's sakes! I mean, he's basically praising Cuomo.
Yeah, I know he's praising Cuomo, and
so that way he can attack Ron DeSantis. But
yeah.
The Wall Street Journal was pointing out, how erroneous this is, because when Florida had an older population, which was more susceptible to COVID than New York's population, and then when you look at say the younger population compared to each other in New York, versus Florida, Florida's death rate per 100,000 was much lower.
Yeah.
And Ron DeSantis, I mean, I think anybody in Florida, mostly agrees that, I mean, he kept that state running and open, and they're doing well, where Cuomo wanted to shut everything down, and New York is still trying to get themselves sorted out.
And you think if they didn't kill off all those old people in nursing homes,
right, yeah,
they would not have lost the congressional seat.
What a disaster that was!
They would not have lost the congressional seat either, and there is a large exodus from New York now. Today I read and heard that Billy Joel, the man from Long Island, he is now moving from New York to Florida. Another exit, another New Yorker finds freedom in Florida. I hope he understands he can't vote the way he did in New York and talk like he did in New York when he's in Florida. But Billy Joel's moving to Florida.
No, good for
He is 75. He is 75 years old after all.
He fits the Florida senior citizen profile.
Yeah,
he'll enjoy the
3 o'clock dinner
in Florida.
Yeah, the 3 o'clock dinners and bedtime at 7, lights out at 7. I wonder if he's going to go to a 50-plus community in Florida.
Well, it should make his final 10 concerts at Madison Square Garden, extremely popular.
Yeah, and that was something he evidently had some set dates for MSG, and now he is basically letting those go. So they're going to have new acts next year. That'll be That's true, but he's also probably senility is probably going to be setting in soon too. But going back to that graphic I had earlier, if a Republican we had the best economy under President Bush in 2004. What did the liberal media say? Worst economy since the Great Depression. Joe Biden said he inherited the worst economy since the Great Depression. What is with the Democrats? And this is supposed to be a great economy we're in right now. This is like the worst since the Great Depression. And by the way, I am getting tired of all those liberal whack jobs referring to the Great Recession. It was a secular recession that happened and it went. It was not a great recession. We had to have been in it for 30 years. Or not 30 years, but at least 20 years, if that, or 10 years. And it was not a 10-year long Great Recession. It was only, I think it may have been 24 to 30 months long. I don't remember quite.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, we were doing pretty well under Trump, and then the pandemic, which obviously, becomes an exception kind of a thing like that. And then, then reviving the economy, basically later on. And, things were pointing in the right direction, and then Biden comes in here and they start throwing even more money at the whole thing, which was unnecessary, sparking inflation, higher gas prices and things like
Mm-hmm.
that. And so,
Today's National Donut Day. A
yeah,
dozen donuts is $14.99 unless you get one of those special coupons at Dunkin' Donuts where you get a dozen for $9.99. But still, that's kind of high. $9.99. I remember when a dozen donuts, and this is not that long ago. It was like $6 for a dozen donuts.
yeah, I know that's the thing. I have a hard time buying, a dozen donuts at Dunkin' Donuts unless I can get some kind of coupon because it's just like,
I mean, Krispy Kreme, right? You know, they advertise, oh yeah, we sell a dozen for $4.99. Yeah, but those are the glazed. If you want any of the iced ones or any of the fancier ones, yeah, good luck.
yeah, I mean, Krispy Kreme. I mean, their bread and butter is just their original glaze, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they
Yep.
run a ton of promotions. I think like today, even it's like what you can get a dozen glaze for $2, but you got to buy a dozen, on
Mm-hmm.
top of that. So you'll still wind up spending what $15, $16 for
Yeah.
two dozen.
And
And,
back
and their
in,
and their donuts are not that big, and they're okay. But
they've shrunk. You've seen
yeah, I don't, I don't, I
shrinkflation.
don't, I don't think they're anything special.
Remember Dunkin' Donuts? They used to put the donuts in like a shoebox type container. Now they put them in a flat box, right? The donuts were larger when they put them in the shoebox type container, opposed to laying them out flat. They're smaller. Donuts have shrunk about 20% over the
That,
last 30 years.
that's why as much as I like Dunkin' Donuts, I mean, when we had the shoppers nearby,
Mm-hmm.
we would buy there because they sold big donuts at a good
Mm-hmm.
price.
They weren't that bad either. They were,
No, they were actually pretty good. I
yeah.
mean,
Giant Food has good donuts, frankly, but you can never. They never seem to have a. It's a hit or miss. Like you go there, sometimes they have them. Oh, I do remember Montgomery Donuts. We used to do the donuts fundraisers.
yeah,
We'd go
that was a
buy the donuts. A dozen donuts for $3. We'd resell them at 50 cents each or 25 cents each. I think it was 50 cents, and we'd make money hand over fist just selling donuts. Well,
yeah,
Montgomery Donuts used to supply the donuts for Giant Food.
yeah. I mean, Montgomery Donuts was kind of a throwback. I mean, if you walked into the Rockville location, I mean, they had the
Hmm.
counter service, and it was just like old school kind of a thing.
Yeah, and like they had the coffee. It was like it's kind of like there's a coffee chain in Boston that's kind of has that retro theme. I'm trying to think of the name of it. I want to say it's the Great American Cafe, but that's not it.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think the Post had a thing about like your donut in the United States by kind of territory. So our
mhm.
area is very much, Dunkin' is the
Yep.
major dominant thing. But apparently, I think it's either in Arizona or something like that. There's something I never heard of before, and they're like mochi donuts. Okay, so that's Japanese mochi donut type of thing like this. I thought, well, that'd be interesting.
But is that like the? Is that the? What do you call the? Is that like the ice cream type dessert type donuts they have?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm curious. Now I'm going to have to do a little more investigation next time if I go to Arizona and find out whether or not there's something like that.
Yeah,
Out in those countries.
I should text John about that. Actually, he might know. Mochi Donuts, is that the name of the place?
Yeah, I don't know what was the name of this place.
What's the famous AZ donut place? Before he goes Dunkin' Donuts. Anyway, John's from here, so it's very possible to say, "Oh, Dunkin' Donuts." And there's another chain called Donut King. That's another one. Do you remember Mr. Donuts?
Oh yeah,
They were like Dunkin' Donuts' big competitor.
so it's called. Okay, there's one in Tempe. That's actually not. It's called Mochi Nut.
Dunk Donuts are kind of fun, yes. I'm surprised they're still
Hmm.
in business.
I'm gonna have to send this to Spencer and say, Spencer, tell me about this. Spencer
Yeah.
Spencer and his wife just came back from a trip to Japan, so they
Oh, how
got
they like it?
they
Did they
let
do?
my daughter-in-law was over there on a semester abroad program, and
Mhm.
Spencer went over there for the last 10 days or so. I did one of the places they were disappointed in Universal Studios. My daughter-in-law is a big Harry Potter type of person
Mhm.
and didn't think Universal Studios was
They went to Harry Potter. They
was
didn't go to Toho
was up
Studios.
to that, but they did go to. So one of the famous filmmakers, animated filmmakers in Japan is Ghibli. They did
Yeah,
Totoro and a bunch of these other things.
yeah.
These great animated things, and so they apparently have a studio or a theme park over
Mm-hmm.
there. So Spencer and Meg went over there.
But they did not. They did not go to Toho Studios, huh?
No, I don't think so.
I am very disappointed in Spencer for not going to doing the Toho Studio tours. He could have gone and had lunch in the Jet Jaguar cafeteria.
Yeah, well, I know that they were here and there and trying to do whatever they can within
Yeah,
reason for the limited time. So Susan's mentioning Duck Donuts.
yeah.
I think Duck Donuts it is a lot of fun.
Are they still in business? Because I thought didn't they close one of their
Well,
locations?
they closed the one in Gaithersburg up by Clopper, but they still have the one in Rockville, I think.
Yeah, the old Entenmann's,
Right.
and there's we were I tell you donuts. I mean, they used to be like a dime. I mean, for 25 cents, you get a coffee and a donut for 25 cents back in the 80s. And this is crazy. Today, coffee is $6. A
See
single
that,
donut is
and
$3.
that's what's hard for me. I'm not going to say that the prices are unreasonable in today's scenario, but I have a hard time. I know my wife has a hard time paying for
Mm-hmm.
certain things when you say, but this used to cost just this a few years ago or
Yeah,
whatever, and you're like, it's hard to swallow the pricing of some of the things
I
these
mean,
days.
look at these. These used to be $1 a piece. So this, and you know, it's summertime because the Mountain Dew Blue is out. They were $1 a piece, and I'm sure they were probably cheaper than that before that even. But they were $1 a piece. Now they're like $2.49 each. $2.49 each for. This is the zero sugar version, but it's got blue dye and blueberry extracts.
I mean, I think before the pandemic, I think Deer Park, the 40 pack of bottled water
Mhm.
at Costco and Sam's used to be about, wasn't it like $4 or something like
Yeah,
that?
yeah,
Now it's like 6.5.
yeah.
He's like, what happened? It's water.
I know. It's like I might actually. I'm going to do a little experiment at some point. I'm going to replace the fancy bottled water in our offices with tap water. See if anybody can tell the difference. I mean, we grew up drinking tap water. I mean, did you grow up drinking tap water?
Oh
When
yeah,
you were...
obviously, yeah. I mean, I drink pretty much just bottled water. I mean, either Deer Park or the Costco brand.
Mhm.
I mean, I prefer the spring water, but the Costco ones are like 10 cents a bottle. So
The filtered water, yeah.
yeah, and apparently, I think they add something to that too as well. But
But hey, Brita filters have gotten really expensive too. So
yeah, no, that's right.
those are like gotten crazy expensive. I don't know why.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous, and I just think even not I'm looking our house here is what 20 years old or whatever it is
Hmm.
now, and I'm thinking like probably ought to think about things. There are going to be things that are going to be needed to get replaced and whatnot, and I'm almost scared to find out how much they're going to cost when my furnace breaks down, or if I got to replace another AC unit or whatever.
That's why you should get that insurance plan, which is pretty good. It's $60 deductible, and if something goes wrong, they'll replace it. I've got the American Service, whatever, and I had an issue with a crisper drawer that was broken in my refrigerator, and they replaced the crisper drawer.
So you got one of these extended warranties
Yep.
independently.
Hmm. I got them for everything in the house. Um, Basically covers the furnace, water heater, AC unit, refrigerator. By the way, new refrigerator is pretty expensive now too. It's like
Well,
close to
everything's right.
$3,000.
The thing about the Brita filters is that the Brita filters are so expensive
Mm-hmm.
that you're like, and they don't. I don't think the filters last all that long to begin with.
No, they don't. My refrigerator, I put
It costs you a fortune.
yes. I gotta do
And
put a filter.
the refrigerator filters for your water are super expensive.
Yeah. And every seems like every 3 to 4 months, and I'm like, how long do these things go bad when I'm not even using the water from the refrigerator enough for it to, go bad? I think it's just a preset racket that.
Yeah, you begin to wonder if it's just like when you buy a copier and
Mhm.
you get the
Oh
starter
yeah,
copier. Yeah, I think I know our filter in our refrigerators. It says to replace it, but we rarely pull water out of that anyway. We're just
yeah,
drinking bottled waters. Like
yeah,
that filter's like over $100 or something. Like I'm not doing that for something I
yeah. I
know.
tell you, the ones in the KitchenAids, the Sub Zeros style KitchenAids, they are expensive. Like 125, and it lasts about 3 months, maybe four.
So we've got one of those.
I'll replace it once a year is what I'll do, okay? Because it's not being used enough. I'll replace it once a year. I reset the filter settings on the door when it says to replace the filter. I'm like, yeah, right. It'd be one thing if I was like filling up water like every couple of days, like a couple times a day, and it says, hey, you need to replace the filter in 3 months. But when I'm doing it like once or twice, and even the ice, I'm not even using the ice that much. The water, the crushed ice feature.
Mhm.
I remember growing up when we first got the refrigerator with one of those water and ice through the door. I thought that was the coolest thing in the world. Now
Yeah.
it's like, it takes up so much room inside of our freezer. It's like it takes up room in the freezer that I can use to put stuff in, and I can make my own ice.
Yeah, before we replaced our refrigerator 2 3 years ago. I mean, since all that stuff had basically broken down,
Hmm.
my wife just took out like that all that
The
stuff on the
unit,
inside that you could remove,
yeah,
create more freezer space.
yeah. Well, I tell you, my house in Florida, we have actually an ice maker, a separate ice maker. And I'm thinking like, well, we use it, but I'm thinking like, this actually makes more sense than actually having that water and ice through the door. You know,
Yeah, I mean, it's a convenience, but I think it's really overhyped.
Mhm.
You can do it differently. People, don't- you know, most of us drink have we grew up drinking tap water, so what's the big deal?
Yeah, I know. And like I said, I think if yeah, I want to bet there's people that can't tell there's in tap water in Deer Park. I just need to figure out a way to reseal the Deer Park bottles once I empty them out of their water and replace it with tap water. You know. And by the way, have you seen the speaking of tap water and all this stuff? Have you seen the latest environmentalists? You know, don't we recycle those laundry detergent? There's got this new thing. It's like a little paper sheet that you use instead of a liquid laundry detergent. The guy's like, oh, you don't have those bottles that end up in landfills. Well, I'm sorry, aren't you supposed to separate those and recycle all of that stuff? It gets melted down and then it's been used. You can make something else out of it. You know, these people. It's like I don't know if you've seen bottled water in plastic bags at the stores. I don't know if you've seen that yet, Don. You can buy water in a bag. I don't have a cup holder that can hold a bag of water, frankly. I would never buy that. But people buy that, they're like, oh, it's better for the environment. How is it better for the environment? I mean, I know people that reuse those water bottles, frankly. They'll get a bottle of water, they'll reuse it 3 or 4 times before they throw it out. And, which,
I mean,
go,
that's one thing you can take like an empty. That's when you're traveling through an
mhm,
airport, take one of your empty
yeah,
16-ounce bottles or whatever,
hmm,
and then fill it at the airport. After check, after security,
yeah,
and then you've got water for now, and
hmm,
you repeat the process on your way back, and then you can recycle the bottle later if you
hmm.
want.
Once I flew down to Florida, I had like 3 bottles of Coke in my bag, and TSA didn't take them out. So I thought on the way back, let's just keep them in there. So, I put in 3 more bottles. I decided I actually got greedy and put in like 6 bottles in there of water and stuff like that. And they threw those out. And I'm like, I was asking the guy, I go, hey, what do you guys do with this stuff at the end? Do you guys all just divvy it up and take it home? They go, no, we're not allowed to do that. We have to destroy. I'm like, that is like I mean, give it to a homeless shelter for crying out loud. It's like, You know how much water they probably collect? They confiscate like that. I mean, why would you throw it out? Why not? Like, what they could do is like do like a water exchange program. Like when you people, take one, just put it on ice, have it out there as people are leaving, getting off their flights. You can take a bottle of water or beverage, that was confiscated from someone else, and it's kind of like the who was it? I'm trying to think. It was Chris Core, who used to be on WML, but was talking about how they used to take your nail clippers away on TSA used to take nail clippers because they should do a nail clipper exchange program. So you leave yours at the airport you left, and you pick up a new set when you get to the other airport. Because this is back in the early days of the TSA, they were confiscating evidently they were confiscating thousands of those a day.
Yeah, I'm hoping. I'm hoping by now people have, you know, may, maybe after losing their favorite Swiss Army knife, they've now make
Mm-hmm.
sure they don't carry that anymore and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
it's like Swiss Army knives. You can't carry those. You can't. I mean, take bottles. There's like a lot of. That's true. Yeah, that is true. The bottle needs to be sealed. Yes.
Yeah, but I mean, even then, I mean, they just I think for safety and security, that's why they just dump anything like that they catch in security, just go straight into the trash can.
Yeah. True. True. But I still think you can tell this a bottle of soda has not been tampered with.
Yeah.
I mean, even bottle like the ones I hate the most are the ones they used to have bottled water. You put a little shrink wrap over the cap and stuff like that. That was like the most annoying. I hated that stuff. And it's crazy, But before we get to final thoughts, did you see that the rate of repossessions is up for cars? Are we going to see a car crisis like we saw a housing crisis back in the 2008s? Because car loans are it's like a wild frontier. Evidently you can loan out, you can do car loans and charge almost like 23 or 26% interest on a subprime car loan. How do I get into that racket? I really want to do that. That's a sweet deal. And then you get a car. If they can't pay for it, you get to repo the car and sell the car again and start it all over again. But yeah, their repos are up. And there's a guy on YouTube showing all the repo cars by Wells Fargo. And this one guy had keyed his charger. Like, why would you do that? Why would you do that? You know,
Well, I mean,
and
there was a story. There was a story a few weeks ago, I think, about the repo men,
mhm.
and there actually is a shortage of repo men because it has become such a dangerous job. The
Yeah.
the owners of these potentially repoed vehicles, a lot of you don't know. Sometimes they're armed; they might shoot at you. Who knows what the heck it is, and so a lot of
Yeah.
people are like, it's not worth their time because you only get paid if you get the vehicle or the motorcycle or whatever.
Hmm.
So, if you go over there and you try to repo a car and you're unsuccessful, but the guy chases you out with a knife or a gun, you're still out your time and whatever effort you spent to go there.
Hmm.
So there's no compensation until you actually repo the vehicle.
Yeah. And
So
also the price of gas, what it is. I mean, tow trucks, take diesel, a lot of them, and the price of gas.
there's lots of things. I mean, we've be it not just the car loan kind of problem, people, but because the economy's become softer in a
Hmm.
lot of ways, and people are struggling now without all that pandemic money that we were giving them. Credit card debt is touching record highs, and so that's a time bomb that people are they're now falling back into their bad
Yeah.
habits of getting accumulating debt that they won't be able to pay off,
Yeah.
and the student
And
student loan pause is going to end, and that's people have been they've been skating for free for the last 3 years.
and you think you'd be putting the money aside, for the last 3 years, but
No,
no.
but if you read the majority of the stories, what are they doing? They've been using that money to pay down other debt. Not thinking that they're hoping that Biden, was his program to his edict to forgive student loans will go through,
Hmm.
but the Senate, you know, with thanks to Manchin and Sinema and I think John Tester, they voted to end that. to once and for all. Supreme Court will make the final decision, and we'll probably we'll probably get a decision
Yeah,
of that end of the month.
I was blessed, didn't have to do the student loans when I was going to school. But what is the audacity of people expecting someone else to pay their debts? Because this is that slippery slope. Okay, today it's student loans, tomorrow it's going to be credit card loans, and it's going to be why should I have to pay for my car? Why should I have to pay for my mortgage? And that's where that's where we end up at. Actually, at the end of the day, it's kind of like the whole kind of keep pushing the envelope, and now we're at transgenders. But yesterday I did go into the Target over in. I was over at Goddard, and I went to the Target over there in Beltway Plaza. No trans stuff. I didn't see anything right there. But I'm willing to bet if I go to a Target in Montgomery County, it'll be in my face.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much of that is left. After I know that we know that Target started to remove some of that stuff because people were getting so upset with it and threatening employees. So
it's funny they have shoved that on our face, but they never. They don't do the big decorations for Christmas anymore. I remember the traditional Thanksgiving decorations, Native American and Pilgrims. You don't see those anymore either. I don't know. And that's all has to. That's another something you couldn't. I don't think you. Yeah. By the way, Lone Ranger is another show that they probably couldn't make anymore today.
yeah, most definitely.
Nor could they. I don't even think Zorro could be redone. They could redo Zorro.
Cisco Kid.
Yeah, that's another one. Yeah, they couldn't do that. They couldn't do. I don't even think they could do the Rifleman. Even Little House on the Prairie probably could not have been redone. Even though they had a very famous African American actor ill in the Little House on the Prairie. I want to say it was Moses Jones or something like that. Yeah, it's the Cleveland Guardians. By the way, I heard that for the first time. The Guardians, the Nationals, I guess, beat the Guardians. And I'm like, is that an expansion team? I go, oh yeah, that's the Cleveland Indians. I don't know. So it's crazy. It's just this. Where will this madness end? That's the question. I leave our listeners with, and everyone knows that before we get to final thoughts. Because we don't want to be a 2-hour long show like our last 3 shows have been.
We're a little long. Let's keep this closer to the time.
Yeah. So let's do final thoughts. You first, Don.
Okay, a few things here. I mean, Chick-fil-A has gotten a lot of criticism from conservatives after they made their announcement. They've hired a diversity, equity, and inclusion officer and everything like this. It's not necessarily out of character for Chick-fil-A. I mean, they are closed on Sundays. The owners, are it's a private company. They're very Christian, but they had kind of modified their position towards the LGBTQ community after getting some backlash. Frankly, I mean, I don't know whether or not the Cathy family even understands what DEI and where the roots are of that, because I would think if they really knew, they would never have gone this way. But this is it's unfortunate that we just have these corporations that continue to kind of kowtow and bow to the left and all this nonsense that you have out there. Yeah, Craig, I love that comment. That's a great comment. Yeah. So, but at least, overall, Chick-fil-A still is trying to be, respectful of family and give their employees Sundays off, which is great, and all that. But I'd like to learn a little bit more about what they're doing. On the Target situation and all this other stuff that's going on with the Pride clothing, I guess I've resigned myself to the fact that retailers are going to continue to try to appease the LGBTQ community by doing this.
Have they learned nothing from Bud Light?
Yeah.
Have they learned nothing?
And exactly who are they selling to? I mean, how big is the gay community? You know, not very big,
What is it? 1% of the population?
but they're very loud, right? I mean, that's the thing.
Yes.
So even, I mean, Target goes out there and they put out this pride merchandise. Conservatives get angry and they pull back a little bit, and then the LGBT community comes back and they criticize Target,
Mm-hmm.
for doing that, and but my biggest problem with Target is just that they kind of reaffirm their partnership with Glisten, GLSEN.
Oh yeah, the guys that were didn't they like sue American Airlines or
Well,
American
here's
or
my
something?
my problem is that so back in the days when Peter LaBarbera and I were doing these things, and
Yeah.
we all know how big Peter has been
Oh yeah.
fighting the gay agenda throughout his adult life. Uh, back then it was
Pete, we'd
called
love to have you in Doctor Politics one night.
back then it was Gay Lesbian Straight Teacher Network. They just changed the
Yes.
teacher to education. But the
Yes.
thing that gets me is that they were producing at that time a film called It's Elementary, which was directed all at school children, at third graders, fourth graders,
Mm-hmm.
whatever, and explaining to them it's okay to be gay or think if you're gay, you may be gay, you don't know it. Exactly what does a 6 or 7 or 8 year old know about this? Nothing, but they were setting them up for indoctrination, as they were trying to kind of, to me they're grooming these children to become the next level of gay kids along the line. They were all setting them up before they hit puberty and all of this to convince them that they were really gay, more than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that Target is partnering with these people, I find that to be an abomination. I'm not a big boycott person one way or the other. I don't
Mm-hmm.
really, but because the left has done more boycotts than the right, I think, and there's done more
Yeah,
fighting.
you
But
know, and here's
I would easily say that there's no reason for me to set foot in a Target store after this. I've got young grandchildren. The last thing I need is to have a corporation working with basically an organization that
mm-hmm.
targets children in this manner. That's
I
off
mean,
limits to
you know,
me.
the next shoe to drop is they want to legitimize pedophilia,
Well,
and they're already do
it's
they're already
it's
doing
right
it.
there. It's right there. I
Yeah,
mean,
and it's like this is why last week I said we need to draw a line in the sand here. This is where no more.
yeah.
You know, we let them do gays in the military. We let them do gay marriage, civil unions. We let them do gay adoptions. I mean, I'm sorry. This is where we draw the line in the sand.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think Riley Gaines, the former
Yeah. But what
NCAA.
happened to Title IX? You know, where is Patsy Patricia Ireland or Kate McGee, two former now presidents? Where are they? You know, where are all these people that call? I mean, Phyllis Schlafly is a feminist compared to these gals at NAG. Frankly,
Yeah, no,
why are they not speaking out against all these men in women's sports that are breaking all the records? It's kind of like the USFL. Where these players would leave, want to go to the NFL, but they go to the USFL and break all these records. Yeah, where is Gloria Steinem? Yeah, where really exactly? Where is she?
and yet, as Susan knows too, is that these feminist leaders, when it comes to certain issues that should concern them, they're silent because
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't fit the political
Yeah,
agenda.
it's
So
like
they,
look at it. All these women that came out trashing President Trump, right, for his bimbo eruption. Let's call it what it was, a bimbo eruption, right? They were silent for 8 years with Bill Clinton. Dead set. They demonized Paula Jones. They went after Jennifer Flowers. They went after Linda Tripp, who was the hero who basically exposed the lies of and outed the president in his latest bimbo eruption, so to speak. And what did she get? The Howard County, Maryland prosecutor prosecuted Linda Tripp. You know
yeah, well, I
where?
mean, look, if you're a woman who accuses a liberal of some sexual harassment or assault,
Yeah.
that doesn't concern NOW or anybody else like that.
No, no, they don't care. Like Joe
Only the
Biden.
conservative
What
side.
about the importance of the charge? Is that the thing Democrats used to always like say? It's not whether the charges are true. It's the importance of the charge. Oh, that's right. Dan Rather said that about the fake documents he made about President Bush. It's like it's really an outrage. All these fembos, feminists, out there that you know would said, you can't say gal, you can't say chicks, you can't say broad, you know. And now all of a sudden, they're dead silent. So are we allowed to call them broads and gals and chicks now again? I mean, you feminists, you have no problem with like Title IX is basically just defunct now, frankly.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean, old timey, waitresses would say they like I've had that happen in Waffle Houses years ago.
yeah,
They'd say "honey," right? Well,
exactly,
you can't do
exactly.
that anymore.
Or if you're in Baltimore County, it's hun, you
Yeah,
know. And I remember once I made, uh, it's the Honorable Ellen Sauerbrand, had HON, right? And it's like, she's not the only hun in Baltimore. I'm like, you really are. Yeah, exactly.
absolutely. All right, a
Yeah,
couple more quick things.
yeah,
So the former mayor of Chicago, Lori Lightfoot, is going to be teaching at Harvard. Talk about the decline of higher education. They just, I don't, I'm not surprised that she winds up at Harvard because that's what happens with a lot of these lefties anyway. But it's like exactly what's she going to enlighten the Harvard students about after what has to be one of the most disastrous runs as a mayor in Chicago
yeah.
history.
Hmm.
You
I
know,
mean, she makes Ron Emanuel look like a decent mayor.
yeah, seriously, yeah.
you know, Lori Lightfoot,
But when you say that, she actually may wind up looking better than the guy, than this guy who just succeeded her.
that's true. He's worse than she is, which is,
Because he's like after those 41 people were shot over Memorial Day weekend, he's just like, well, I have a holistic approach to policing.
yes.
Uh, what the heck? I mean, it's like you had 41 people shot. I think like 9 or 10 of them died, and you're not really. He had campaigned. He said he was going to, he was going to add some more police to the streets and whatnot, but he's beholden to the teachers union and the liberal left. So the, we, if people thought Lori Lightfoot was bad, this guy's going to be even worse based on
Hmm.
this start. It's not looking good for the Windy City at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's big city mayors are not doing. I mean, where are the days of mayor? What's his name? Forget the guy's name. Mayor of Philadelphia. Really good law and order guy. He used to be the police chief, then he became mayor. Rizzo. Yeah, Mayor Rizzo.
Oh, Rizzo, yeah, he was quite a character, wasn't he?
Yeah, even Fast Eddie Rendell. Remember, he was also a mayor of Philadelphia.
Was it Frank Rizzo? What was it?
Yeah, Frank Rizzo. And then after him was Fast Eddie Rendell was the mayor.
Rendell, yeah.
You know. By the way, it's funny. Ed Rendell would be a right wing ideologue in the Democrat Party today.
I mean, politics has shifted enough that that's what happens. Is that a lot of these people that were definitely more liberal or where they don't fit within the party anymore on that spectrum. They have to move over to another area. It's
I think the Democrat Party has left a lot of our classical, like Joe Lieberman, Scoop Jackson, Pat Moynihan Democrats.
look. I mean, ever since Biden got elected, he's really given a voice to the left. The left is really controlling their agenda.
Yeah.
This is not the Democrat Party of the Scoop Jacksons and Monahan and those guys anymore. Well,
Oh,
yeah,
you know what I mean.
it's just a
You
type.
know what? Yeah. That's why I don't like posting from my phone, but it's convenient sometimes.
That's
I,
when,
I
yeah, when you post from your phone, is you're likely to make the most errors.
yeah.
All right, my final thing is just a reminder about California and its effect on the rest of the country, including Maryland, but which I hate to say, but so they have these emission standards, right? By 2035, they want to try to phase out gas powered cars and all this kind of stuff. Well, Stellantis, which makes the Jeeps, they're basically saying that in every state more or less that's adopted the California emission standards, you're probably unlikely to see many, if any, gas-powered Jeeps going forward. They just can't get them. It's just the regulations are just too much. So it's not just California. It's New York, Massachusetts, Vermont, Maine, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Washington, Oregon, New Jersey, Maryland, Colorado, Minnesota, Nevada, Virginia, and New Mexico. So if you've got a gas-powered Jeep and you love it, hold on to it. If you can find one, buy one, because you're going to be, next thing coming up will be the EVs, and you won't be able to buy a gas powered vehicle anyway. Also, I just I just saw this thing about travel and fees, and I guess it had been back in my mind. Hadn't really thought
Mm-hmm.
about it, but I think Hertz and one other rental agency, so they do rent EVs to you can go and rent
Mm-hmm.
an EV, but they if you don't if you bring your EV back with less than 70% charge, you're going to have to pay $35. And I'm betting that's basically because of the amount of time it takes them to bring that car charged back up to 100%. Because as you get to the higher levels, it takes more time to get to
Yep.
that percent level. So it's going to take them a lot of time. And if they can't rent the car out because it's not fully charged, they're not making any money. So they're charging you, So this is kind of like, when you don't bring your gas tank back full, but
Mm-hmm.
but the time involved is going to be much steeper because if you're a little bit short on the gas and they have to
Mm-hmm.
refill, charge you an enormous amount of they charge you $5 or so. Well, maybe now they're charging $8 or $9 a gallon.
Well, Enterprise you can pay in advance, by the way.
Right, you can pay in advance, but it doesn't take them very long to gas up a car, but it takes them a
Mm-hmm.
heck of a long time to
Yeah.
recharge an EV. So buyer beware.
Yeah, and but just when you thought it was safe to buy a Ford, yeah, that damn Pinto designers, they moved him over to the Lincoln line, and he designed all those MKZs that are now even turned off. They're catching fire and burning people's houses down. And,
And don't I guess you don't buy a Kia or a Hyundai from 2010 to 2020 or whatever the time frame is,
yeah.
the ones that have been in those TikTok videos and been
Mm-hmm.
stolen. I mean, the manufacturers issued a software fix for this, but the problem is that not everybody knows that they can go to the dealer and get this
Yeah.
done.
And what do you call it with software fixes? But Microsoft has had way too many software fixes that they've pushed through this past couple of weeks, and I'm like, it's getting old. When you have when I've got two desktops and like 4, 6 laptops, having to keep them all current, and I got to keep them separate for different agencies. That's the reason I have so many laptops, not because uh, I'm a hoarder and I hoard laptops.
My first world problem now is recently I listen to a lot of podcasts when I'm at the gym and in my car,
Mm-hmm.
and it used to be whatever I set up in the queue basically to play the podcast one after the
Yeah.
other. That's how it would play. But my Apple Watch, last month has decided that it wants to give me a different order completely.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I don't understand. Why is my watch giving me a different order than my phone when the podcasts are, they reside on my phone?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what have you done, Apple?
I know it's crazy, the technologies and so on.
So anyway, your turn. Wrap it up.
Okay, my final thoughts. Couple things. One, Red, White, and Blue dinner is coming up really fast on the 17th, and the state party has their convention coming up, and their Friday night speaker is Governor Chris Christie of the state of New Jersey. If you get a chance, go check out the Robot Chicken special on the creation of the state of New Jersey. It is hilarious, and you won't stop laughing for hours. That's how funny it is. And it's on YouTube. You can find it, or I'll share it. Come to my Facebook page. I'll have it out there. It is hilarious. It goes back to the days when Jim McGreevey was the governor of New Jersey. And so so come on out. We'd love to see you guys at the convention Friday night. Governor Christie's going to be there. Go to mdgop.org to get details and buy tickets for that. Also, Red, White, and Blue is Saturday, June 17th, over at the BWI Marriott. Come on out. It's going to be Governor Christie Nome is the speaker. It's a Saturday night, so you don't have to worry about getting up early in the morning the next day unless you're going to early mass on Sunday, and then that might be a problem. Uh, and then what else is going? Also, again, just going back to the whole neo-enviro nonsense that's going on out there. It's like, give it a break. It's like this whole nonsense. Oh, jeez, I'm not going to share that. Sorry. Someone who trashes my club does not get free publicity here. Sorry, Susan. But we're going to also this weekend. What else is going on? Also, gardens are in. If anybody has advice on how to keep rabbits from eating my garden, I'd love to hear them. I've tried everything from talcum powder to hot pepper to the rabbit and deer repellent, and so on. And so on. It's it's rabbit season. Where's Elmer Fudd when you need him? Frankly, come on, Elmer. I got a whole bunch of that coming to my yard and eating my plants and so on. Yeah, I've done that. That still doesn't. That does not work either. I've done the deer repellent. That's what it is, a deer pee, and that doesn't seem to work. I've tried hot pepper. I've tried talcum powder. Talcum powder actually, I think, worked a little bit. Somebody suggested mothballs, so I'm going to throw mothballs out there. Okay, and yes, I know it's bad. They're bad for the environment or something like that. Somebody told me once. I don't know why. I mean, they dissolve and disintegrate. They go away. I don't know what the environmental impact is on a mothball, frankly. But that's going on. And here's a quick question for everyone. Do you think Will Jawando should be paid as a councilman while he's running for U.S. Senate? Or shouldn't he be using up his vacation time and that he's got, and maybe go leave without pay while he's campaigning, opposed to charging taxpayers his fat salary for being a councilman? Just saying. Maybe he should be not paid while he's running for office. Just saying. And I know people say, well, what about Spiro Agnew? Well, something. Spiro Agnew wasn't going raising taxes on people like Will Jawando, and the Democrats are raising property taxes in Maryland, in Montgomery County, frankly. Call Will Jawando's office and tell him you didn't approve his vacation time. He's not allowed to go campaign. Do the job that he was elected for. Let's see, what else do I have? Final thoughts. I think that's about it with final thoughts. And for Dr. Jeff, who had technical difficulties this evening, good night, everyone. And we'll all be back next Friday. No, we won't be next Friday, because next Friday is, we're all, it's the convention time. So we'll see everyone in 2 weeks, actually.
Sounds good.
So good night, everyone.